and I'll start to share.
Okay.
Still, it's just me and you.
Me and you.
Okay. Okie dokie. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Peggy Bernard. I am the Essential Ed Rep for New York. And the session is being recorded and will be shared for anyone that would like to view it later. And my goal today was to talk to you about our methodology is to change lives. We publish Education to Change Lives. And we do this through Benjamin Bloom's theory of mastery learning. So I was going to teach you a little something about mastery learning today, and hopefully you'll consider implementing it into your classrooms. So this is me. I live in Massachusetts. I cover all of New England, New York, and New Jersey. This is me the last time at a conference in person a few years back. And I'm just going to keep moving here. Let's see. So the agenda was to define mastery learning. You know, what is mastery learning? So I'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll talk about implementing the key theories, just explaining how you can implement. There's 5 key steps in mastery learning, and I'll go through them, and just hopefully you'll be able to find some ways to incorporate them into what you're currently doing. I'm going to do a brief Essential Ed product overview, and then I will open it up for questions and closing remarks. Okay, so in the 1960s, John Carroll, he's a PhD, he outlined mastery learning, and then in the early 80s, Dr. Benjamin Bloom developed mastery learning, right? So it's something that's been kicked around for a long time, and Bloom sort of really put it into theory in the 1980s. And over the past 30 years, dozens of studies have identified elements that significantly improve learning speed, retention, and performance. So Bloom defined the process that allows students to master skills through sufficient time, deep instruction, and ongoing formative assessments, right? So that really every single person can be successful regardless of their experiences, regardless of their skill set, regardless of their disabilities, right? Everyone can be successful without exception if we give them enough time and enough support. So up until now, really, it's been impossible to implement a mastery learning principles in adult education classroom because students are all over the place, right? They come to you with such varied needs, and it's very difficult for the teacher to really teach to each student's unique needs. So Essential Ed, we feel like we've changed this, right? We have an adaptive program that will truly tailor the experience and individualize the learning pathway for each individual student. And so mastery learning now is the norm instead of the exception. So Bloom's research, compared a traditional classroom setting to a mastery learning classroom and a personal tutor. And in the mastery learning classroom, over 80% of the students achieve their goal at the highest levels of performance. So just to explain what it is, it's that content is not just taught from a conventional setting where a teacher stands up at the front of the room and teaches math or teaches English. Instead, mastery learning looks at individual small chunks of information, and it delivers the content to the students, right? And it goes and assesses back to see which skills the students are missing, and it'll remediate right there, right? And then it will continue to assess and remediate, assess and remediate. So what you see in a typical bell curve, right, you see this high aptitude is typically runs, right? Students with a high aptitude have this, you see the same bell curve for achievement. But in a mastery classroom setting, you see the majority of the students over here reaching achievement, right? Because we're slowing things down for the student. We're taking the time to remediate those small skills that a student can't master, right? And we are correcting the students. We're remediating the smaller skills so that they will eventually, build the foundations and reach that achievement along with the rest of the students with a high aptitude. Okay, so mastery learning is defined by Sal Khan, right? It's teaching to mastery represents the most efficient use of available instructional time. It accelerates students' performance, right? It provides students with proof of success rather than failure, and it reduces the total amount of work that must be done to transmit skill and knowledge, right? So students taught mastery will learn how to learn, basically, right? And I just wanted to show you a little bit about, I love Sal Khan. I think he's just incredible. And I think he does a lot of, so I just wanted to kind of let you listen to his description of mastery learning, because I think this is really cool. It'll help you to understand what we're trying to achieve through our program.
The terms mastery learning are used a lot these days, but I want to do a video on them because they can mean different things to different people. And I want us to talk about what it means, at least in a Khan Academy context. So to give us some perspective, let's actually just start with traditional learning and think about where it works and maybe where it doesn't work. And then we could think about why mastery learning might address some of those issues. So let's say we are in a middle school math class. And right now the classroom is focused on negative numbers. We're going to work on that for a couple of weeks. So this is negative numbers right over here. And after a couple of weeks of lecture and homework, we give a test. And let's say a certain student that we're following gets an 80% on that test. So he or she knows a lot of the material, but doesn't know some of the material here, maybe doesn't know some of the material here, maybe doesn't know some of the material over here. So these are gaps. These are gaps in their understanding. So these, let me label these correctly. These are gaps. And even though we've taken the trouble of giving an assessment, a quiz, a test, and we identify these gaps, the whole class, including that student, will then move on to the next concept. So let's say the next concept that we now work on, maybe we do it for a few more weeks, according to the lesson plan, is now basic exponents. So this is basic exponents. And the same thing happens. We have some lecture and homework for a few weeks. And then at the end of that, we have a test. And let's say on that test, the student gets a 70%. So he or she knows a good bit of the material, but there's still some pretty significant gaps. Let me color in these gaps. So the white is what they were actually able to perform on these tests. And even these tests are imperfect. They're just sampling the student's knowledge. And so what happened to be on the test, they still didn't know some of the material. Some of it might have been careless mistakes, but some of it might have been pretty important. For example, this gap right over here might be what happens if I raise something to the 0 power? Or maybe it's building on top of a gap with negative numbers. Maybe this gap is happening not just because basic exponents are difficult, but because there's a gap in negative numbers. So the student doesn't know, well, what does it mean if I take a negative number to a positive exponent? So maybe that's a gap there. But even though we've taken the trouble of identifying those gaps, the class will then move on to the next concept. The amount of time is what's fixed, and what's variable is how well the students understand it, A, B, C, D, or F. And then the next concept, let's say, let me do this in another color. So the next concept here, we are building on top of everything that we've learned so far. Let's say it is negative exponents. So I think you can see where this is going. This is trouble now for the student. There's lecture and homework. The student is trying the best they can, but things are just not really gelling. And so all of a sudden, when you take the quiz, the student just hits a wall after 2 or 3 weeks. And let's say they get a 30%. And so they're only able to get 30% of the material right that happened to be on the test. The rest they got wrong. Now, in a traditional system, we say, all right, the student just failed this exam quite badly. Maybe the student needs to work harder. Maybe they need to be put into a different track. Maybe the subject is just too difficult for this student. But when you look at what's going on, it's pretty clear that it had nothing to do with the ability level of the student. And it didn't have anything to do with the difficulty necessarily of the subject matter, but it's more that they just kept accumulating these gaps all along the way. So at some point, those gaps become so debilitating that the student hits a wall and starts failing a class. And if they're not able to remediate these gaps, go back, well, they're never going to really be able to understand negative exponents. And then they're never going to be able to understand logarithms properly and more advanced algebra and so on and so forth. And we've all seen this either for ourselves or some of our friends and family members. They hit walls. And the argument that we believe at Khan Academy, it is not because they're not bright. It's not because the subject matter is difficult. It's because we're forcing them through at a fixed pace. And to realize how absurd this is on some level, imagine if we did other things in our life that way, say home building. So you tell the contractor, we have 2 weeks to build this foundation, do what you can.
Okay,
And so they build a foundation.
I'm gonna stop this here, but just so you get the idea, right? And everyone can identify with this, right? That you're feeling left behind, right? If you're not keeping up. And what our program does is it helps to remediate those gaps. It identifies the gaps for every single student, and it will remediate the gaps, right? In real time. And then there was one other thing I wanted to show you that was kind of cool here. And this is introducing the idea of mastery learning to students, right? It's important that they understand that they're not stupid, right? That they certainly, it's a matter of they were taught at a fixed rate, right? And we just need to find those gaps and just help them and give them more time and fill in those gaps. We have to fill in these foundational level skills in order for them to succeed. So anyway, and you need to introduce this concept to them, to tell them that this is what you're doing, right? Because it'll help to motivate them. So this is one thing that I also really love, and this is just was eye-opening when I watched this. So I'm just going to share it with you.
The thing is, every successful person you know has failed at what they love to do before. I've been unsuccessful in my career. You just didn't know about it because I wasn't famous yet, and I was trying to be famous. I was trying to get a record deal for 6 years, and I kept getting turned down. And any successful person you know, even though it seems like everything just happened for them, it usually was preceded by a bunch of failure. Or at least a significant amount. But the great ones aren't the ones that don't fail. They're the ones that learn from their failure, and they keep going, and they're persistent, and they're tenacious. And for me, I was trying to get a record deal from 98 to 2004. And I got turned down by every major record label, including the one I'm signed to now. And for me, that means that even when you hear no, you have to keep going through all those no's until you get to yes. And with learning something new, I think it's the same principle. When I was younger, I didn't really know that you could just get better at things. Because I think we're so used to the idea that you're talented at something and it's sort of fixed, you know, the idea that, oh, he's just a good singer, you know. And even with singing, I've gotten better at singing. As I've gotten older, I wasn't singing in a way that was sustainable, and I wasn't breathing right. I wasn't doing a bunch of things correctly. I realized that there was a ceiling that I couldn't crack through unless I actually studied and worked under a coach to get better. And this idea that things are just fixed is proven not to be the case. You can get better at things, you can grow. And even people that are innately talented still need to go beyond that basic talent that they have and cultivate it.
So that to me was eye-opening, because you think about John Legend, you think he's just doesn't have to do any work to be successful, right? Anyway, so back to mastery learning. These are the addressing the problems, right? So students aren't independent learners. Majority of students aren't, right? You know that students have skill gaps, right? Gaps everywhere, right? They learn at different speeds, right? And generally they're not strong readers, and certainly, you know, motivation is an issue, right? So we like to try to keep them motivated and find ways to help them kind of galvanize their interest in their future. A mastery learning classroom really addresses all these issues, right? Because we provide the tools for students to learn each skill before they move forward, right? And that's by implementing the 5 principles of the mastery learning classroom mimics as closely as possible a personal tutor for each student. So that's really kind of what we're trying to do. And we automate this process. And the five key steps. The first one, we have to identify their gaps, right? We have to identify their gaps by giving them some sort of assessment, whether that's a practice test or a self-assessment, whatever it is. And then we're going to divide the instruction into small, digestible chunks of information that are easily read and just easily digested, right? It's not thousands of words on a page that's going to demotivate somebody, right? We're going to make sure that the content is relevant, right, and highly engaging, because they're gonna lose you if you don't if you give them fictional nonsense. You're going to lose them. So you want to make sure that the content is relevant. And then, whoops, sorry, oopsie. And then we want to continually assess them, right? We want to continue to reassess, and we have these embedded in our program of these formative real-time assessments that look at what the students do in real time, and it'll adapt their lesson plan once they do master a skill. It'll introduce more difficult material and so forth. We want to give them constructive feedback right at the point of use, right? You don't want to wait till a week from now, right? Right at the point of use, the students can get a reteach if they get something wrong. So those 5 steps are key to a mastery learning classroom, and really key to it's the foundation behind our whole adaptive software program for GED and TABE Academy. Okay, let's see. All right, so then again, just to recap, we're going to determine the degree of mastery for each skill, right, with assessments. We're going to divide the learning into manageable pieces, right? You're going to make it highly engaging and personalized instruction. We're going to give them immediate feedback, right, with corrections, right? But we want to make sure that is transitioning into progress. We want to make sure that they've actually get it and they're able to demonstrate that they've understood where they went wrong. And then we're going to continue to assess them, right? And it's a cycle, right? It's a cycle. So just what teachers in a conventional setting, what mastery learning is very hard for them, right? They don't like change, right? And it's contrary to everything that they've been taught, right? In a conventional classroom, you heard Sal Khan say it's a fixed time period, right? And it forces the teacher to view the students in instruction in a way that sort of hinders their success, right? It's going to move the whole class forward, whether the entire class absorbs all of the information or not, right? And schools typically don't have really good models for this. But when they're taught through mastery learning approach, they're going to learn new material and really in fewer trials, right? And they'll learn it quicker, right? In less time, and they're going to know more information and more operations, and they'll certainly have more skill in applying what they've learned and opportunities to show that. So just I really think that it's important that you read the research behind the theory, right? This so if you look at John Carroll or Benjamin Bloom's work together, you'll find, and I think Khan Academy is awesome. They have a whole section on mastery learning and really go into deep detail of what it is and how to implement. You want to tell your students about the research, right? You want to help. You want to tell them that you found a way, you think, to accelerate their learning. And when they hear that, they're going to say, "Oh, great! They've tried before. They really want to get their diploma quickly in the fastest route possible, right?" So that's what many programs do, and ours included. So you want to review your program against those 5 key elements for student success, right? You're going to evaluate your habits and tendencies, and you just whether you think you can or think you can't, right? You're right. That's a Henry Ford statement. Okie dokie. So just what we cover, we have online and offline software for adult basic ed, for high school equivalency, for workforce readiness. We have an alignment to the College Board's AccuPlacer test. So this is for students that have obtained a diploma and might want to avoid taking developmental courses in college, right? This can save them if they don't place in that placement test initially in their first year of college. they're going to be stuck in a developmental course that costs them money, and it doesn't apply. It doesn't count as credit towards a diploma. So we want to just make sure that just this College Essentials is an excellent course too. We also have a ton of free resources for you. So basically our programs are online and offline, right? And they're broken down to ABE, Adult Basic Ed, and high school equivalency classes. We have a workforce readiness suite that's unbelievable. It teaches the soft skills students need to be successful in a career. Let's see, we have offline classes, right? We offer these in correctional facilities or in sites where the internet isn't available, right? Very important that we're reaching these students. So what we offer online is also available to be implemented in a network setting offline. And we just re-released this, so we're pretty excited about the newest release for offline. We have a whole series of print solutions, right? We have leveled workbooks for TABE. They cover each section and each subject, and they're designed to work with smartphones so that teachers can actually see what the students are doing on those scans on lessons and quizzes and tests, right? They can see the results in their LMS. So it's very, very cool. It's and students love it because they can just do the lessons on their phone. We have a series of workbooks that are designed to work in conjunction with our online software. It is a blended solution. I think it's more of a nice to have than a need to have, but it is awesome because students don't have access to the internet or computers all the time. So it is really nice for them to hold that book and see within their lesson, look at this lesson has a workbook connection in the math skills workbook on pages 231 to 234, and it gives them additional opportunities for practice and instruction. So it's really cool. We give away a lot of free stuff, and if you scan this little code there, it'll bring you to our website. You can download our teacher toolkit. There's all sorts of stuff in there. There's some activity templates and some recruitment posters and all sorts of really fun webinars. We have these measurable skill gain accelerators. These are planning guides for each section of the TABE, right? So there's one for reading, math, and language arts. They're awesome and they're free. We just put together this implementing a distance learning program, right? This is a step-by-step guide to teach your organization how to implement a distance education program, right? And we saw that the need for this, of course, during COVID, but I think since COVID, a lot of programs are really seeing that a distance learning program can benefit, right? It can help to expand their current reach. There's value there. So it's just, I don't think you're ever going to go back to the way we were. This is just our free library, right? A free resource library. So just go to essentialed.com and you'll see all of our free resources. There's all sorts of really great stuff. I love the College and Career Ready Roadmap. There are curriculum guides for GED and all sorts of sample workbooks and so forth. So just go in there and take a look. Tweeds, we do these informational webinars about once every other month, and they are free to teachers, and they always have they're really to help teachers be better teachers, right? They're free. They produce a certificate of completion if you're looking for CE credits, but they're all based around helping a student either, be more confident or be more motivated, or really to have to stick with it, right? Have some perseverance. This one we just did on technology, which was, I thought I was tech savvy. There's a lot of technology out there that I still haven't really wrapped my head around. So there's all sorts of great stuff in there for you guys. So, and once you sign up for one, you can you'll be invited to the next one. If you can't make it, you can always go in there and get these webinars on demand. It's good stuff and it's free. All right, there's the teacher toolkit, all the stuff that's in there. Let's see here. We did put together a distance learning series of professional development. These are also free and available on our website. This one, teacher does some modeling with our lessons to teach. It's really nice. How to keep records, right? If your student's at home and you're at home, how are you keeping track of their progress and their records, right? What are you doing to keep those records? All sorts of, how to maximize the reports, how to use the reports to drive decisions and so forth. Good stuff. let's see. We have live coaching. We have a whole team of people, a whole pool of highly qualified subject credentialed teachers that take the GED test apart and give students free coaching sessions on how to find the right answer. These are free to you, and within our program, the students can access those. So people ask, what makes you different than other vendors, and I think we give a really high quality and a high level service, and we keep the quality service up and the cost of our programs down. And I think that we give an awful lot of a comprehensive solution for an excellent value compared to other vendors. We're adaptive. There's some badges in there, badging system to motivate students. It's mobile friendly. It is one of the most compliant programs I've seen for adults out there as far as helping with accessibility. We have a Spanish component that's really cool. It's not meant to prep the students to take a test in Spanish. It's really designed to help the student promote English proficiency. It's a support. Let's see. This is our accessibility. This is a glimpse of the student homeroom. And I don't know how much you want to see of this. I'll log in quickly so you can see what the interface looks like. But just know that when you purchase seats from us, it's like purchasing your own virtual school, right? You have at your fingertips 100% of instructional lessons that teachers need to teach from grade 2 all the way up past grade 12. Right, so teachers can search through the content. They can use it to teach if they want to in a classroom or over the internet, over Zoom. Right, we have a student interface that is a prescriptive pathway that's going to march a student towards readiness to pass a specific assessment, whether that's GED or TABE. And then there's an administrator that sits at the top, right, and will make site-defined decisions for your virtual school. There's not any man hours affiliated with it, but for data integrity, we like, a couple people there, so only there's a few keeper of the data keys there. Let's see, there's all sorts of cool reports, and and a big announcement. The biggest news is that we announced a partnership with DRC, right? So Data Recognition Corp publishes the TABE test. Many of you New Yorkers use the TABE test, and you're probably familiar with their individual profile report. Well, from now on, that individual profile report from the Data Recognition Corp is viewed within our TABE Academy. It's viewed within the Essential Ed LMS, which is really cool, really cool. So I'll show you a little bit of that. This is a press release. So this is the report that comes from DRC, right? It's an individual profile report. It gives you, the levels that they're reading at, the total number of points, the points obtained, the scaled scores, the NRS level, measurable skill gains, and so forth. So this type of information, right? This is, whether it's partial or proficient, right? This is all this data. And especially this linear, right, this granular skills that have been demonstrated, and then areas for next focus. This level of data is being shown in our program, which is really awesome. So I'll show you it because what the heck, right? Anyway, so this is what it will look like. Okay, so if any of you are familiar with our program, this is sort of the teacher interface. But what will happen now is that you'll see this TABE integration tab. So this will allow you to see data from DRC, right? So this is we don't capture this information, birth date or gender, but they do. So it filters into our program. It'll match with the student name and email address. It'll tell you the last TABE test that was taken for the student, and it'll also give you report information, right? So you can see, and I do have to, I want to pull it for a specific teacher. I want to pull it for a specific classroom. I can pull it for a date range if I want to. Let's see here. Let's pull it for, I don't know. Pull it back. I'll pull it back for, oh, April 1st. I'll pull back for April 1st. I want to see the report. So I have all of these people that have TABE data. I want to go to the skill mastery, right, to see, and let's see, I want to just pull it for my class. And I want to see it for, I think I saw some data in there for Math D. So this will show me, right? This information is coming from TABE, right? So this will show me, if I scroll down here, this is TABE data, TABE test results. So this is showing me from every person, right, that has taken the TABE test. It'll tell me this is coming from DRC, whether it was they were proficient, partially proficient, or not proficient. So all this does is it's helping me to identify quickly, identify which students might need some help, right? And it's kind of helping me as a teacher prioritize, or maybe I could have these students partner together, right? Have these people that understand it, teach these people, and so forth. It's just helping me to make some decisions about teaching. But I can pull it also for an individual student, which is really going to give me more information. So it's nice to have it for the class, but it's really nice to have it for the student. So this is the DRC individual profile data, right? This shows when the test was taken. It shows the level. It shows the points, right? It shows what he's demonstrated. It shows the next focus. And if I want to, I can assign the lesson right from here. So I'm targeting some intervention, right, to the points where this specific student has demonstrated a weakness or hasn't gotten there yet. So I can see, right, I can see whether it's mastered or not started or partially mastered, right? And certainly you can see the legend up here too. This is partially mastered is 25 to 54%. So maybe for the student, I just want to focus on the gold ones, right? Let's just see, and I can go ahead and, assign. So anyway, this is really cool. This is, it's gonna really save time from the teacher having to go look at TABE data. And I just think the announcement is just really fabulous. All right, I'm going to show you one more thing, and I'm going to put some extra time back on your calendar today because I think an hour and a half is way too much to listen to me. All right, so I'm going to go into, I'll just show you what a student interface looks like. And you would get your own URL, right? It would say essentialed.com/start/ I don't know, Brooklyn EOC or whatever the name of your program is. This would have your name in it. This is your URL. You would own it. And you would have teacher access, student access, and site admin access. Okay, so I'm in here as a teacher. If I change the product, you'll see that I have all of the ABE products, HSE products, workforce, college essentials, and I have workbooks, right? This is if I check this, the scans from the workbooks would show. Okay, I'm just going to pick GED Academy, and you'll notice when I change the product that what's behind these menu tabs changes. So if I'm a teacher and I'm looking for GED content, I'm going to look under the content maps, right? I can see the practice tests, right? There are 4 practice tests. The first one is untimed. The predictive value of these tests is excellent. So unless you're mandated to buy those GED ready vouchers, the predictive value of our embedded tests is excellent. Anyway, I can certainly reassign a practice test to my entire class. If they'll get them automatically, but if they've submitted and didn't do well, I might say, hey, listen, do a retake and take your time. This is an untimed test. I'm trying to get a real view of your true abilities. And, you only spent a minute in it before. Let's try giving it more time and see how you do and hit assign. And they'll get that in their lesson plan as an assignment from the teacher. If you go to the scope and sequence, you're seeing all of the lessons from the easiest to the most difficult. Some schools use this as a planning guide. And you can search on these. So it's under pre-GED, I'm getting all of the kind of the easier lessons, 5th grade NRS level, right? So it's number line, shapes and patterns, greatest common factor, prime factorization, and so forth. I can search on these. GED Testing Services publishes a list of high impact indicators. If I want to make sure I'm covering those, I certainly can. This one is
Hey, Curtis here. I'm glad you're joining me for another important math lesson. The order of operations is a rule everyone uses to simplify numerical expressions. In this lesson, you will learn how to use the order of operations. When I was in high school, I learned about order of operations for the first time. Funny thing is, I thought the order of operations was what the teacher wanted me to use and that it was different for other teachers or in the real world. Man, did that ever confuse me. When I took math again as an adult, I learned that everyone uses the same order of operations. That's what makes math work the same for everyone all the time. Now that made sense to me. I mean, everyone should get the same correct answer when they're calculating something, right?
Yes, they should. Okay, so this is a perfect example of a gap, right? So Curtis had a gap, and then he just was pushed along forward, right, without remediating that gap. So we've caught it here, right? And we've gotten, all the lessons are set up kind of similarly, right? There's an introduction, there's a lesson, a lesson, a lesson. If the student can demonstrate mastery, demonstrate they understand the skill, the concepts behind these lessons by getting questions 1 through 3 correct, we're going to move them on forward, right? We're going to accelerate him forward. He doesn't have to do questions 4 through 8, right? So if he understands, we're going to move him ahead. However, if he doesn't, if he can't get these right, he's going to continue to work through the questions, but he's going to get a reteach, right? So here's one we're being asked to simplify without a calculator. I'll just go ahead and answer this. I could have hit that, by accident, and maybe I just want to continue, but I can opt. I have an option here to get a reteach, and I might be frustrated at this point, and I might want a reteach. So I'm going to hit this.
It looks like you're getting the idea of using the order of operations when it's just multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. But there are a couple more things you need to know. The first thing is called a grouping symbol. Grouping symbols are things like parentheses, brackets, and even fraction bars. Calculations in grouping symbols need to be done first. These two expressions look similar because they have the.
So that's a big aha, right? Anything that's a grouping symbol must be done first. So this is where he went wrong, right? So the next time he's assessed on or gets a question like this, he is more likely to get this correct. He'll do the parentheses before he does anything else. So it's just a teacher can certainly assign this to a student, right? If she wants to, she can assign it to the entire class and just say, hey, listen, everybody watch this. I want you to just be introduced to this concept before we go through it together, right? She can search on the lessons. If my students aren't reading at a 5th grade level, I might look for a lower level lesson, a TABE lesson, right? And if the content's going to look different for TABE, right? If I pick the scope and sequence here, I do have to pick a subject, right? But now I'm getting lower level lessons starting at that 3rd grade NRS level, right? So I'm looking at consonant sounds in the English language, vowel sounds, phonemic awareness, blends, right? Those context, prefixes and root words, right? Those introduction to those 6 key reading skills, introduction to main idea and details, introduction to sequencing and so forth. So it's a much lower level. All right, so I have been sort of yakking away here, and I haven't really showed you the student experience. So any teacher has this nice little blue bar over here. This allows them to play around as a student without creating a dummy student account for themselves. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and click this, and you're going to see this is the student experience, and I've assigned this student practically everything, which is not typical, right? A student would probably just get 1 academy assigned. So I'll go ahead and I'll select GED Academy. And I'm going to, this is what it looks like. Hang on, let's just see. I want to reset my progress. Sorry. Let me try that again. All right, so I'm going to pick GED Academy. And this is what I'll hear. Uh-oh, what happened? What happened to my audio?
Ready for college and a career. What I hear from most of my students is they want a way to make studying really fast and easy. They don't want to waste their time. They want a course that makes learning really simple. Here's how the GED Academy does this. First, we figure out the exact skills you need to pass the GED test and to get ready for college. We do this by asking you to take a practice test or self-evaluation of your skills and experience so that you study only on the things that you need to know. Next, we design a personal learning plan just for you. Your learning plan presents the lessons in order from easy to more challenging, making sure that you get the foundations first. What makes your learning simple is that we break the material down into easy to understand bites, but we don't stop there. I'm always in the background as your personal tutor who is figuring out what you need to brush up on and then making those recommendations to you. This is truly a revolution in learning because it makes everyone a success, no matter how long it's been since they were in school or how they did when they were there. This is our promise to you. If you put in the effort, you will pass the GED test. No sweat. See, our philosophy is that everyone can and should be successful at learning. Everyone, no exceptions. This is our job, making learning simple, and we are very good at it. Okay, so now you're ready to go. There are 3 steps to get started. First, pick a course you want to work on. And I suggest you start with your easiest one first, so you get some success under your belt. Next, make a commitment on how much time you want to study each week. It's important to set a goal so that you have something to aspire to. I'll keep track of your study time and give you an update on your homeroom. To pass the GED test. It's your personalized learning plan that ensures your success.
Okay, so that's the message that students initially hear, right? And then we want to get started, and we ask them to set a goal for themselves. I like to see a minimum of 5 hours a week, but if they put 10, they're going to see faster results, right? So I'm just going to, they can update that at any time. I'm going to pick a subject. Certainly teachers can eliminate these subjects if the student just has to, the reading and the writing to pass and so forth. It defaults to giving them a choice, whether to take a practice test, right? Untimed practice test, or a self-assessment. Again, the teacher can remove this choice from the student. We don't want to give them any unnecessary angst, right? So starting off at a self-assessment is an easier route. They can just dip their toe in.
Hi, I'm Leonard. You've decided to use the self-evaluation tool to determine which areas you need to study to pass your GED test for math. There's no grade for this, so don't worry. This is just our time to figure out a learning plan that works best for you. Let's get started. In the GED Academy, there are 3 study levels: pre-GED, GED Prep, and advanced GED. Most of our students start at the pre-GED level. In the pre-GED level, you cover all the math basics, like using fractions and decimals and solving real-world problems. When you start any unit, you will have the option to test out if you already understand the material. So, what do you think? Is the pre-GED level the right level for you?
I think it is. It'll be a nice refresher of foundational
Okay,
level
then.
math.
We'll start you out at the pre-GED level. Remember that if you already know a unit, you can test out of it at any time. You're ready to start learning. Click Submit to get back to the homeroom.
Okay, so this is the student homeroom, and there's 4 quadrants. They'll spend the majority of their time in their learning plan. Lessons are system assigned or teacher assigned, right? It would be a 3rd tab over here if a teacher had given an assignment. We're going to keep track of their progress. We're going to keep track of their practice test scores, right? And we're going to give them details and an explanation of how they went wrong in each question. Remember, that's that corrective feedback at the point of use. They're going to keep track of their scores. Once they finish all 8 of these units, we're going to give them a practice test automatically, right, before they move into the meat of the GED prep material. I'm going to keep track of their study time. I can enlarge this, right? If I'm going to work in this window, I might want to just enlarge it. And it says the whole numbers and operations. Whole numbers is probably easier for me. So I think it says, do you think you've got it? Go ahead, try to test out. And students, we encourage students to try to test out of entire units and anything they think they might know. Why not, right? We're trying to get them through this as quickly as possible. You'll notice down here, it says study time is being recorded. We have a report that'll track everything that they do. It's kind of like an audit trail. It's called a student summary. It's awesome. So this is a whole numbers and operations test out quiz. I'm going to take this without a calculator, please, right? We want the student to really learn and you know, we have tips in mental math. He just doesn't need a calculator and it's just only going to slow him down, right? Because it's going to detract from his learning the material. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and answer this. I can give him a scratch paper and a pencil and just have him write the columns down neatly and attempt to do this without a calculator. Word problems. I hate word problems. They make me sweat. But this one is not too bad. Right? It's just adding. There's another one. Oh, this one looks terrible. I don't know. Let's go with this one. I just guessed. Okay. And we do accommodate for guesses, right? We raise the bar a little bit. We want the students to be more prepared. So we raise mastery level to about 155. We're looking for 155 to show readiness. All righty here. I got one wrong. Let's see. Moving along here. Give us the area of length times width. And this one, they sort of throw a curveball. It's division, but then they say they only come in packs of 3. So unless the student really can use logic, they're going to miss it. So anyway, that is a trick question.
Your score is encouraging. Think about your experience.
All right, so because my mastery is an 8, it defaulted 80, and certainly your school administrator can change that, right, to lower it or whatever. I have an 80. I got 8 or more correct. I'm feeling good. My bar is starting to move over down here. I see that I have my 80 is captured here, and it's blue, which means it's passing. So blue is beautiful. We're looking for blue, and I'm tempted to hit this big orange go on button, right? I'm off to a great start. However, right, the system picked up on a couple of things that those gaps, remember those little gaps that I had. You saw in Sal Khan's video that those gaps that students are, prevent them from really mastering and moving forward. So we're going to take a look at this, right? And I'm going to see that this is for the teacher. There's a little blue eye here, and it just indicates more information. And it's telling that the student aced factors and multiples. They can multiply. They're strong at that skill. They got 100%. 75 is pretty darn good too, right? I'll take that 75 as a positive that they know what they're doing, right? This one down here, 66 is still okay, but maybe I might make a recommendation, right? When you're using all of the operations together, you know what? Maybe why don't you just do this one, solving problems with whole numbers, just do this one lesson. And you know what? You might benefit from doing some flashcards because they're going to give you tips. They're going to give you tips on being able to multiply faster and do some mental math, right? And this is going to help you when you start getting into the really complex mathematics. It's going to be easier for you because it's like working out, right? You're working out your mind muscle, right? To prepare you for higher level math. So that's the way our program works. It is meant to march a student towards readiness to pass the test. The reports in here are fabulous. I'm going back in as a teacher just to quickly take a look at the reports. It defaults to study time, so I can see what my students have been doing. This was just yesterday. If I wanted to do it for a date range, I certainly could. If I wanted to do it for all my students instead of the ones that have become deactivated for not logging in for 30 days, I could see it for all products, right? If I pick a specific product, I can drill right into a student. Right? If I pull readiness is based on those practice test scores. It'll tell me who in my whole program might be ready to pass a specific section of the GED test, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and see if I have anybody. I have quite, and this, because I didn't pick a specific class, it's giving me all classes. I've got a lot of smart students, a lot of hardworking students. So 145 is passing. In our program, we like to see 155. Again, just to accommodate for any of those guesses, right? Or just, it's not a perfect score. So we try to raise the bar a little bit just to make darn sure that our students are ready, right? And this student, I have a student, I'm going to drill in here. And I have a student that is working diligently, and she's so close. She's so close. There's a couple of things I can do to figure out what is she missing, right? How can I help her quickly move over the hump, right? So I can look at the details. It shows me she'd spent 21 minutes on a practice test. She scored a 154 out of 200, which is pretty good. But let's just see, right? So we're going to take a look at the quiz she did, and I'm going to help to identify anything that she got incorrect. I'm going to have her look at, right? And try to just figure out how she can remediate herself, or I can go through this with her. It's a great use of time, right? And if I look at this question, it's on probability. We know probability is going to be tested. It's definitely a high impact skill, right? She answered 1/234. She probably just guessed, right? If I click this explanation of the answer, I'm going to get an explicit explanation of what the heck, how do you get the correct answer? And it says this is not just a probability, it's a compound probability question, right? So you want to start with the numbers. This is only one way to get a 9 out of 10 possibilities, 10 possible digits, 0 through 9, right? And now there is 26 letters that could go into the letter location, and only one correct letter. So there's only one way to get A out of 26 possible outcomes. And because you want both, it's an and, right? So you know you're going to multiply when you see and, right? So we're going to put 1/10 and 1/26, and we're going to multiply. And the answer is 1/260. And so the next time she sees a question like this, she's more likely to get it, right? She's more likely to get it correct. You might have to review this a second time with her, or look at additional question, right? But we're moving in the right direction, right? So we're going to give her an explanation of everywhere she went wrong. Before I give her another practice test, I'm going to make sure it's an exercise in futility to just keep giving her practice tests, right? Without remediating where she went wrong. So the other thing I can do is I can also, back to our one and students, and besides looking at her practice test, I can pull a skill mastery report, right? And I want to do this for all of Lakshmi's math class. Let's see, I want to do it for everyone. Let's see how they're all doing against math. So this is every single person in my class, right? It's showing me that quite a few students, well, I haven't done a ton of work, but I can see that some students have mastered, right? And let's see, what do I got here? Okay, so I do have some mastery, partial mastery. If I click this, it'll actually show me who those students are. But instead of that, I think I would like to pull it just for Anne. I'm concerned about her. I want to help her. She's starting to feel like she's getting off to a bad start. So now I can see what it is. This report was for the whole class, but now it's just for Anne. So I can see very specifically what it is she needs, where she's at, right? Based on those GED small strands, right? Those little GED is the order operation one. She's mastered. I don't have to deal with that. She had trouble simplifying radical expressions. I might just go ahead, hit assign. I don't want to overwhelm her, but certainly I might want to assign, right? Just look at some of the ones she hasn't mastered and assign, right? And I'm targeting intervention to her uniquely demonstrated gaps, right? It's mastery learning. All right. That's all I'm going to show you. There's an awful lot of to know about the program. It's really awesome. Again, if you change the product, the reports are going to look a little differently. So if instead of that readiness report, if you change the product to TABE, you're going to see the practice test details, right? And you do want to pick a subject, and you can pick a class, but it's showing you measurable skill gains, right? It's based on the TABE levels. It's giving you the score. It's giving you the student name. It's giving you the date and time. There's a lot of information behind here if you drill into. But I'm seeing gains from Stephanie Leonard and gains from Michelle. So this can be printed. It can be exported. There's an awful lot you can do with it. And I am going to end here and just say thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm Peggy Bernard, and I am the New York representative for Essential Education. My email is just Peggy, P-E-G-G-Y, at essentialed.com, and I will respond with information. Or a lot of folks have wanted to do trials. We're happy to give a pilot if you want to try to pilot it. Any questions at all, please feel free to email me or to call me. My direct number is 617-637-7669. And we certainly appreciate your sitting and listening into this session on mastery learning. And I hope you got something out of it. And just, we really, truly appreciate everything you do. You're incredible educators and incredible people for doing altruistic work and helping to change the lives of students through education. And that's it. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your conference. I'm going to stop recording too. Hang on, let's see if I can stop recording.